Good afternoon, class. Welcome to this session of Strategic Financial Management. In our earlier session, we were discussing regarding the analysis of market and demand under Strategic Financial Management. Now, in that we had already discussed regarding situational analysis and specification, situational analysis and specification of objectives. And also we had studied regarding collection of secondary information and conduct of market survey. In our today's session, let us discuss regarding characterization of the market. Now, to speak regarding characterization of the market, based on the information gathered from secondary source and through the market survey, the market for the product or services may be said in terms of two. Sorry, can be said in terms of you know uh, there are 6 to 7 types how we can analyze those. The first one is effective demand in the past and the present. Now, speaking regarding this, to to calculate the effective demand in the past and present, the starting point typically is apparent from consumption, which can be said as production plus imports minus export minus changes in the stock level. Now the figure of apparent consumption has to be adjusted for consumption of the product by the producers and the effect of abnormal factors. Now the consumption series after such adjustments may be obtained for all the different years. Now the next one under that is breakdown of demand. Now, to get a deeper understanding into the nature of the demand, the total market demand is usually divided into demand for different products of the market segments. Now, it can be in the form of nature of the product, as to tell. How does it would benefit for the customers, the consumer groups which is going to buy it, the geographical division, that is to tell the taste and preference of the people who are residing in the northern part of India would be very much different from those who are residing in the southern part, and through these ways the demand can be broken down. Now the next one is price. Now price statistics must be gathered along with statistics pertaining to physical quantities. Now this may be helpful to distinguish the factors like manufacturer's price quoted as FOB or CIF. Now, FOB is nothing but freight on board, and CIF is cost, insurance, and freight. All this comes under the export and import when goods are, shipped from one country to another country. Or, the landed price of the imported goods, average wholesale price, and average retail price. All this would be taken into an account. Now, the other way of characterizing the market would be in terms of methods of distribution and sales promotion. Now, the method of distribution usually it changes with the nature of the product. That is to tell whether it is capital goods, industrial raw materials, or whether it is like consumer products. Now all these different kinds of products will have to have different distribution channels, and also in the same way So the methods used for sales promotion of such products, maybe the advertising, discount, schemes, etc., they vary from one product to that of another product. Now another way to characterize, you know, uh, the market is from the point of view of consumers. Now, usually they would be characterized along two dimensions. It would be demographic and social, under which we are going to characterize them based on, their age, their gender, the income what they earn. Now, when we speak of income, it will also be depending on the income that they earn and the income which they are ready to spend. Their profession, their residence, the social background, and on the basis of attitudes, they can be, categorized on the basis of their preference, intentions, habits, attitude, and response. And the one more way is supply and competition. Now, it is necessary to know the existing source of supply and whether they are foreign or are they domestic products. Now, for domestic source of supply, information along the following things like location, present production capacity. So, what is the plan which the organization goes in for the expansion of the company? All these things matters, and along with capacity utilization level, bottlenecks in the product, and also cost structures. Now these becomes important. Now, and also one more important thing for characterization of market is government policy. Now, the role of the government in influencing the demand and market for a product uh, is always significant. Now government plans, their policies and legislation which have a important effect on the market and demand of the product under examination should always be analyzed. Now these can be, you know, now these things will always reflect on the other things. Now it can be seen through, production targets in national plans, the import and export trade controls. It can be seen in, import duties, or for that matter, excise duties, sale tax, export incentives, industrial licensing, preferential purchases, credit controls, subsidiaries, and penalties. Uh, now, speaking regarding this, this is not these things which are we discussing right now as not explicitly mentioned in your syllabus, but then they form a part of your syllabus. So, and again, this is a part of the syllabus for your entrepreneurship and small business also. So here I will not be, dealing with in detail, but in a brief I will have to mention it. Now the next one is demand forecasting. Now on the basis of analysis and interpretation of information, which the organization gathers regarding the various aspects of market and also the regarding the demand both from the primary and the secondary source, the organization will always try to focus the future demand of the goods or the service which it wants to bring into the market. Now, speaking regarding this demand analysis, there are different methods how they can be analyzed. The first among those would be opinion polling method. Now, as the name suggests, here in this kind of method, the opinion of the buyers, the sales force, and the expert, they would be collected to understand the emerging trend that is happening in the market. Now, speaking regarding opinion polling method, there are three different kinds of opinion polling method. That is consumer survey methods, the Salesforce opinion method, and one more is called as Delphi method. Now, under this consumer survey method, usually it is a direct method of trying to forecast demand on the basis of the polls. No, and it is also called as short run survey method. Now, surveys are conducted usually to collect information about the future purchase plans of the, those buyers who would be probably buying your product, or whom we call as probable buyers or potential customers. Now, this kind of consumer survey method once again is being divided into three. That is, first one is complete enumeration survey. Now, under this, the firm has to go, for what we call as door-to-door survey of the forecast by contacting all the households in the selected area of its survey. And the next one under the consumer survey method is sample survey and test marketing. Now, under this method, some of the representative households are selected on a random basis. Now, as samples and their opinion is taken, and it is regarded as a generalized opinion. Now, this method on random basis as samples and their opinion is taken as the generalized opinion. Now, this method is always based on, basic assumption that sample would be actually representing the whole of the population. Now, a way of sample survey technique is what we call as test marketing. Now, this product testing essentially involves placing the product with a number of users for a set period. Their reactions to the product are noted after a period of time, and an estimate of likely demand is made from the result of the survey. And the next one is end use method. Now, in this method, the sale of the product under consideration is projected on the basis of demand survey of the industries, and using this product and intermediate product in a the demand for the final product of the end use and for the intermediate product used in the production of producing this final product is understood. And the next one is Salesforce opinion method. Now, under Salesforce opinion method, uh, or before telling that, the Salesforce opinion method is also known, can be called as and is called as collective opinion method. And under this method, instead of we going to consumers, the opinion of the salesman is sought. Now, this is also a very good idea of gathering information, with a sense that the customers will always be in contact with the sales force. So, they actually would know the taste and preference of the consumers, and they can actually represent the consumer preferences. Now, it is sometimes also referred as grassroots approach, because it is a bottom-up method that requires each salesperson in the company to make an individual forecast for their particular sales territory. Now, these individual forecasts are discussed and agreed with the sales manager. Now, all together, or the composite of all the factors, then together makes the sales forecast for the organization. And the last one under the opinion polling method was Delphi method. Now, this method is known as, expert opinion method of investigation. Now, in this method, you know, depending upon the opinion of buyers, the salesman firms can obtain view of the specialist or the expert in their respective fields. Now, opinions of the different experts are sought and their identity will never be revealed. Now, opinions of different now these opinions are then exchanged among the various experts and their reactions are sought and also analyzed. Now the process goes on until some sort of decision wherein there would be least minimum difference of opinion is arrived among all the experts. Now this method is usually best suited in such organization where they can interact among themselves and the circumstances where interactable changes are occurring. The first method was opinion polling method. The next one is statistical or analytical method. Now, statistical methods are considered always to be superior techniques of demand estimation because the element of the subjectivity in this method is minimum. Now, under statistics method, what happens is you know we forecast, maybe it is demand, or we analyze things based on the numbers or what the study reflects. But in case of the things we already discussed like opinion polling method, it would be based on the opinion, so it would be discrete, subjective in nature, but the statistics would be to the point or it is analytical in the nature. Uh, and it is also superior to the opinion method because it is a method of estimation and it is scientific in nature, and estimation is based on the relationship between two things or the variables, the dependent variables and the independent variables. And because of these, the reason we can give behind what are the results or analysis, it is also more reliable compared to that of opinion polling. And also because the time involved is less compared to the earlier one, the cost will also be smaller compared to the former. Now speaking regarding this, there are hundreds of statistical methods which can be considered while analyzing the market. Now some of those are thread production method or thread projection method. Now what happens is that whenever an organization uh, is in the market for a long time period and it has kept all its data from many years, it can use this all those data of its earlier years regarding the sales, and these data can be considered as a time series of sales. Now, using these data, a trend line can be drawn using the graphic method or algebraic equation which we used to have in our high schools. and equation method is always more appropriate, and the trend can be estimated by using methods like graphical method, least square method, or time series method. Now speaking regarding graphical method, here a trend line, or now what happens is that when you know the trend of something for a certain years, we using mathematical equation can we can project what would be the trend for the coming years. So first among that is graph method. Now here we usually fit a trend line through a series graphically. Now old values of sales for different areas would be plotted on a graph, and a freehand curve is drawn passing through as many points as possible. The direction of this freehand curve shows the trend. But then there is a drawback of this method, that it may show the trend, but we might not be able to measure it. The next one is the most popular one, which we call as least square method. Now regarding this, the least square method is based on the assumption that the past rate of change of the variable, what we have considered, will be continuing in the future also. Now it is one of the mathematical procedure through which we fit a line to all this set of observed data points, and it would be set in such a manner that the sum of the least square difference between what we have calculated and what we have observed would be as minimum as possible. Now this technique is used to find the trend line which is best fit among the data what we have given. These things will not analyze whether the data is correct or not, but based on the data that is available, they will find the best fit. Now the trend is then used to project department variable in the future. Now this is one of the very popular method, as it is simple and also inexpensive. One more method that is used is time series method. Now this time series method is based on the analysis of historical data, or whatever data we had earlier saved. Now a set of observation is measured in the successive times. That is to tell, maybe once a year, maybe once a fortnight, once a week, or over successive periods also it can be measured. Now the next thing that we will have to discuss is technical analysis. Now this technical analysis, it usually involves some of the aspects like selection of the technology, the scale of operation, the raw materials that would be used, the technical know-how of the organization, the collaboration agreement that it has gone with, the product mix, and selection and procurement of plant and machinery. Now speaking regarding the first one, selection of technology, or it can also be called as selection of the process. Now for manufacturing a product, it is always that it is not one process or one technology can be used. there would be more than one process or technology be available. Now that is to tell, steel can be manufactured either by what they call as decimal process or by what is called as open health process. And even cement can be manufactured either by wet process or by dry process. Now it would be in the hands of the organization, and the choice of the technology also depends upon the quality and the quantity of the product processed to be manufactured. Now, if the quantity to be produced is large, usually they go in for mass production technologies, and it is the what has been suggested. And also relevant technology for such mass production is to be adopted. Now the quality of the product depends upon the use to which it can adopt the technology or the relevant technology. Now the quality of the product depends upon the use to which it is meant for. Now, speaking regarding this product of pharmaceutical grade or a product which belongs to laboratory should always have high quality, and it calls in for usage of sophisticated production technology. Now, it is also required to achieve the desired quality unless it can never be used. Now, products of commercial grades usually do not need such high quality, and the technology can also be chosen accordingly. Now, a new technology, if at all, protected by patent rights, can be obtained either by licensing agreements or the technology can be purchased. Appropriate technology, that is to tell, technology appropriate for one country, it is not necessary that be ideal one for another country. Now even if at all it is within a country, depending upon the location of the project and the other features, two different technology may be ideal for two similar projects set up in two different firms at two different locations. Now, the choice of a suitable technology for a project always calls for identifying what is called as appropriate technology. Now, the term appropriate technology refers that technology that is suitable for the local economic, social, and also the cultural condition. The next one is scale of operation. Now, scale of operation is significant by the size of the plant. Now, the plant size mainly depends upon the market for the output of the project. The economic size of the plant usually varies from project to project. Now, economic size of the plant for a given project can be arrived at and can be arrived by an analysis of capital and operating costs and as a function of the plant size. Now, though the economic size of the plant for a given project can theoretically arrive by what analyzing how much cost it needs, what is the economic size, the final decision on the plant size is always along it is always influenced by many factors, such as the ability of the promoters to raise the funds that is required to implement the project, and if the funds required to implement the project as its economic size is beyond the promoter's capacity to arrange for, and if the economic size is too big, a size for the promoter to manage, the promoter is bound to limit the size of the project that would suit his finance and managerial capabilities. Now, whenever a project is proposed to be set up at a size below its economic size, it must be analyzed carefully as to what the project will survive at the proposed size. Now, the next one that is usually considered under technological analysis is raw materials. Now, a product can be manufactured using alternative raw materials, and this goes without telling, and with alternative process also. Now, the process of manufacture may sometimes vary with the raw materials that has been selected. Now, it which usually sorry. Now, a product, as I said earlier, can be manufactured using alternative raw materials, and it can also be manufactured by using alternative process. Now, the process of manufacture may sometimes also vary with the raw materials that has been selected for the production process. Now, if a product can be manufactured by using alternative raw materials, the raw material that is locally available is usually selected. And this happens because the manufacturing process and the machinery requirement to be used also to a larger extent depend upon the raw material. The type of raw materials to be used should be chosen carefully after analyzing various factors, like the cost of each different kind of raw materials that can be used for the production, and what is the cost that is involved in the shipment of these raw materials to the manufacturing plant, and whether the raw materials would be continuously available without any kind of the problem. Now, since the process of manufacture and the machinery or equipments required depend upon the raw materials used, the investment on plant and machinery will also to some extent depend upon the raw materials used. Now, the investment on the plant and machinery also to some extent depend on raw material chosen. Hence, the cost of capital investments required on plant and machinery should also be analyzed before arriving to a decision on the choice of raw materials. Now, a question may arise why we are studying all these things under strategic financial management. Now, knowing this becomes important from the point of view that you are a financial manager, and being a financial manager, we are not only concerned with the aspect of the finance, but to you know, to come to a point of one decision, we'll always have to know what is going on in our organization, and for understanding may not be in detail, but knowing the things that are happening in brief becomes important under a organizational setting, and that is why we have to discuss regarding all these things. The next one is technical know-how. Now, when technical know-how for the project is provided by expert consultants, it must be ascertained whether these consultant has the requisite enough knowledge and experience, and whether they already have done such kinds of projects. Now, importance should also be given to avoid what we call as self style or inexperienced consultant. Now, the agreement which are necessary should also be executed between the project promoter and the one who is giving this technical know-how. Now, bringing together all these essential features becomes important for this transfer of technology. Now, the agreement should be specific as to what roles would be played by the know-how supplier. The next one is collaborative or collaboration agreement. Now, if the project promoters have entered into agreement with foreign collaborators, the terms and conditions of the agreement, uh, you know, can be the ones which we have already discussed. And apart from those, there should be, additional consideration given to some other factors like, the competence and the reputation of the collaborators needs to be analyzed and ascertained through, some possible reliable source, including maybe like the Indian embassies and the collaborators, bankers, and also the technology proposed to be imported should suit to the local conditions. Now, a highly sophisticated technology which does not suit local conditions will be detrimental to the project. Now, the collaboration agreement should have necessary approval of the government of India. Now, there should not be any, restrictive clause in the agreement that import of equipment or machinery required for the project should be channelized through the collaborators. Now, the design of the machinery should also be, made available to the project promoter so that it helps in the future procurement in the later stage. Now, the agreement should provide a point that if at all there arises any kind of disagreement or dispute due to the interpretation of the agreement or due to the failure to comply with all the clause that has been mentioned in the agreement, it should be decided only by the courts within the permit of the country. Now, it should be ensured that the collaboration agreement does not infringe upon any kind of patent rights. And also, it is better to have a buyback agreement with the technical collaborator. Now, this is to ensure that the collaborator would be serious about the transfer of correct know-how and would ensure quality output. The next one is product mix. Now, customers differ in their needs and preference, and definitely this calls for variations in the size and quantity of the products and are necessary to satisfy the varying needs and preferences of customer. Now, the production facilities should be planned with an element of what we call as flexibility, because the flexibility will help the organization to change the product mix as the customer requirement changes, and this becomes important for the survival and growth of any kind of organization for that matter. Now, it must be ensured that the collaboration agreement does not, sorry, sorry. Now, regarding the product mix, I was about to give an example, that is to tell, a plastic container manufacturer industry, industry can produce according to the market requirement, and this will always give the competitive advantage. That is still maybe the plastic that would be used in for packing and other things. Now, it usually depends on different things like the product size of the one client who has asked you for producing the plastic products. And if at all in such case, you do not have the flexibility in changing according to the needs of your consumer, maybe you cannot be well stood in the market. The next one and the last one under this technical analysis is selection and procurement of plant and machinery. Now, speaking regarding this selection of machinery, the machinery and the equipment required for the project usually depends upon the technology that is used for the production, and also the technology proposed to be adopted and the size of the technology that has to be used. Now, the capacity of each machinery is to be decided by making, a very rough estimate, like, by taking into consideration what would be the estimated output, and also deciding, what is the machine hours that would be necessary for each kind of operation, and also by analyzing the machine capacity after giving necessary, allowance for machinery maintenance or the breakdowns or the rest time of the workers, and what is the time necessary to set up for machines, and the time that would be lost during the change of shifts, and other such unavoidable factors of the organization. Now, once after deciding the capacity of the machine, it is also suggested that a survey of the machinery available in the market with regard to what is the capacity and the chosen capacity, which is either equal or just above the capacity, has to be understood. And in case of the process industry, the capacity of the machines used in various stages should be selected that they are properly balanced. Now, by this, uh, the part of technical analysis is finished, and we have yet to discuss regarding the financial analysis, significance of financial analysis, the role of the financial managers and other people in this, the objective of financial analysis, and the role of the project manager and their responsibility. I will send back the link for your next class, and for today's session we shall complete with the 8th chapter. Once I send, you can join for the next session.